see here. Let me make sure I got all this stuff set right. Figured since I gotta help my daughter out with something, I would share with you guys while I'm doing it. That way some of you guys can see what I do for a living, kind of. Photoshop tutorial 0317. And we'll see if this gets demonetized. I swear to God. Yeah, this. Alright. Here we go. Got that up. Okay. So my daughter has a class, and she took some pictures, but she didn't take in consideration the fact that, you know, my oldest daughter and her best friend were going to be in a picture, and she's like, this picture turned out really cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to clean this up so that there's no shadows on this particular picture. And then I'm going to cut out the main subject right here in the center. And then I'm going to repair the pants legs, the boots down here in the bottom. I'm getting closer so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So you can see right down here, this boot's obscured. You can see this pair of pants right here. It's got some fingers on it. But other than that, I should be able to cut the subject out here and actually add it into this one. Now, the first thing I want to do here is I want to take the shadow off, because if I take this, plop it right inside, bring it out back here, so you can see right down here where this area is, has a bunch of shadows. See right down here, and that's going to make it look really weird and fake. So I'm going to fix this one first. So one of the things that I always do is I make a copy of the main layer, and then I turn the background off. And this is basically going to be my before. And there's a bunch of horse shit and some other stuff that I don't really want in the picture here. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that all up. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this clone tool here. Hey, what's up, Wolf? I'm just doing a video showing some of the stuff that I do for a living, and you know, some people like to know how to do things in Photoshop, so I'm just kind of doing that right now because I figured, fuck, I have to do this for my daughter anyway for her homework before we go on vacation, so I'm just doing it right now. Now, one of the ways you could probably just barely see, oh no, on yours you see this big giant circle, but on mine is small. But if I hit the brackets to the right and brackets to the left, it basically changes the size of my brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Alt. I'm going to select this area up here in the middle. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to start painting, and you can see already the shit disappearing. So I'll do that again. I'm going to select over here, and then I'm going to paint over here. Same deal. Grass is actually really easy to fake this stuff, but you want to make sure you don't take too much of a certain area, because then people will see that pattern repeating and they'll be like, what the hell? And our eyes will notice that it's been manipulated. So this tan area over here on the left is good for the centerpiece. The centerpiece is probably good for this area over here to the right. So again, I'm going to select there, hold Alt, and then I just go ahead and click like regular. Same deal here. Boom, clean that up. Boom, clean that up. And there's some poop right here. I'm going to go ahead and select inside of here like that. And same deal right here in this grassy spot. Just like that. And then these shadows, the way I'm going to get rid of these shadows is a little bit more time consuming, and I have to be a little careful that I make it believable. So if I turn this top layer off and turn the bottom one on, you can see all the modifications that I've done already. And so I'm going to go ahead and continue. So I'm going to select over here in this green area, go like this, just to kind of get this area now. And then I'm going to select up here for down here because I don't want any patterns to show up. So this rough grassy area, I'm going to do the same thing here. And this is something that takes a little bit of practice to do. I've been doing this for so many years that it's second nature for me. So it's not that big a deal. The other thing too is a lot of this is not even going to be the primary focal point. So even though I'm taking the time to do this, a lot of it is really not even going to be noticed because most of the people are going to be looking at the horse and the kids, things like that. So I'm just going to clear all of this up. Again, I'm going to grab over here. And the nice thing is this is a kind of splotchy ground where some of the winter is kicked in, so we got some of the browns, we got some of the greens. So there's enough noise here that most people aren't going to notice that this has been heavily manipulated. So there we go. So now my piece is done here. I'm going to actually grab a little bit of this grass just for right here because this kind of looks a little bit off for me. Don't want that. There we go. And I might even grab some from right over here just to break this up like that. There we go. So now again, if we turn off this top one and look, this was before and this is after. Yeah, you could cover up a crime scene photo. You just have to make sure whenever you're done with it, you don't have enough in here for somebody that does forensic photography to look at and say, oh yeah, this has been manipulated, because if you look here and here and here, this is something that I'm doing super fast, but if I wanted to, I could go down to the granular level like this and then manipulate to the point where I feel it's believable. Okay. Oh, I've missed a whole swath of shadow over here. So this is actually going to be kind of easy because I'm just going to go from here. Let me clean this shit up right here. Clean up this poop right over here. Same deal right here. And right here and here. Get this area right here. And then I'm going to go and make my brush bigger. And I'm going to select right here and just come in here and take this whole shadow out like that. There we go. So there is the before and there's the after. Okay, so now I have this done. So I'm going to go hit Control S to save. Brings up a dialog. I'm going to save it as a Photoshop layer document. Okay, so that's done. So now the hard part begins. Actually, there's a piece right here. Oh no, it's not. Never mind. Okay, so now the hard part. Now what I got to do is I have to come in here, nice and close. But the cool thing is there's this grass down through here. I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm going to use this select tool here. I'm going to start down here. Let's see here. I'm going to start. Let me back up. I'm going to start right over here where the foot's at, and I'm just going to go really loose and fast just to select stuff like this. Just my primary focus. Like that. Like that. Then I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to my layer I'm interested in. Boom. Bring it back out. Looks like I still forgot a shadow right down there in the bottom right. Down over here. I'll take care of that in a second. Grab this layer right here. Again, I'm going to come over here. Select this. And I'm just going to come down like that. Here we go. Okay. So now I'm going to hit save. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off those background layers like that. And that way I could just focus just on this. And what I want to do is take off as much of this as I can. So instead of me doing a destructive, just erasing all of this off, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go with what's called a layer mask. And that's layer, layer mask, and then I'm going to go to reveal all. This doesn't show it on the OBS, and I'm lucky that I'm even able to show you guys the layers and those other stuff here. So when I have to call out something, I'll just tell you where you'll go. Alright, so now the problem here is all of this wispy hair. that would be problematic to try to cut out. So I'm going to leave as much of that in there as I can with this grass. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here like this, come over here to the shoe like this. Okay, now there's part of her leg here. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to leave that little patch of grass there. I'm going to come up here like this. And what I'm doing is I'm just clicking around the area. Again, I'm going to leave some of this grass here like this. So it comes to here. This is part of my daughter's. Okay, so this is a problem area here. So I'm just going to have to come in here like this, because I want to cut all of this out. Cut all of this stuff out here. And I'll show you how we're going to fix this in a minute. But for right now, what I'm trying to do is just take off the hands. The shadow that's going to be there. Like that. All the way up through here. And there's a fence back there. And I don't know if there's a fence on a primary. So what I'm doing is I'm just getting a little bit closer on my cutouts. Up here I'm going to get a little bit closer, because now I'm getting to the face. Alright. So I'm going to come over here, cut around like this. And even if I take a little bit of the subject's ear off, it doesn't matter, because the typical person won't notice. And some of this is a little problematic because of things like hair and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead. His hair is cut pretty short, so it's not a big deal. So I'm going to go like this. And since I'm doing a non-destructive type of a thing, if there's blue sky right where he's at, I might just be able to keep a lot of the stuff. Even with her hair, the wisps and stuff is what makes it more believable. So we're just going to check that right now. I'm going to go here like this, come down like this, go just to the outer edges. And I might even zoom back out at this point. That's Control minus to zoom out. Okay, so there it is. Now what I'm going to do, since this is a layer mask, you see to the right of this is this little white box. So anything I do, a shift, backspace, fill with black. Okay, you don't see that dialog, but we're just, oh yeah, you do see it. Okay, fill with black. Boom. So now all of that stuff disappears, right? Now there's another part over here I want to do. But what I wanted to do first was, I was curious. Okay, so his head right here is actually fine, but you can see where her head is, the whole landscape and everything shifts. But his is actually pretty good up along the hairline here. So I'm going to zoom back in on his hair. And then I'm going to select white as a color. Go to my brush. And I'm just going to check and see. So it's not an exact blue. See how it's a little bit brighter? But that's okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to black. And these areas that are really bright like this, I'm just going to go ahead and paint like that. So I keep a little bit of that hair so it looks a little bit more believable. And if I go on the right side here, I already could tell from where her head is at, that's not going to work out. But let's flip to white again. This might work out. So again, what's good is to go in as close as you can. Come over here and just kind of click once. Click, 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 click. And what it's going to do is it's going to make it a little softer. And I'm going to keep some of that hair, which is kind of important for me. All right. What's up, Price? What's up, Backwoods? Morning to you guys. All right. Now, this hair is going to be a little bit problematic on her, because she's got these wisps and everything else. But the good news is most people won't note that. So you can, again, you can either go in with a brush, just start brushing away like this. Okay, just keep the areas you're interested in. Come down here like that. And I'm just going to actually give her a little bit of a haircut, just a little bit. Right through there, right down through here. Just going to go ahead and shave those out. I'm trying to keep a little bit of this hair. It's not working out the way I want, so I'm going to say screw it. And I'm just going to go down here like this. Clean to his hair, just like that. Come up around here, around her ears. Come like that. Get over here by this hat. There we go. So that's actually pretty good. This right through here, I'm not going to worry about right this second unless it's really obvious. If I zoom back out, you could tell that brightness is not so obvious. You know what I mean? All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. Now, one thing that's always important, as you're working, make sure... Oh, Jay, you won't. I'm just doing some last-minute assistance for my daughter for her homework so that when we're on a cruise, she doesn't have to worry about this stuff, okay? Again, we got problems here. So I'm just going to come like this. And all the fray, all this extra fray that's right there, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to trim that off, because when we look at a picture, when we see photoshopped pictures, a lot of times the frayed hair goes bye-bye, because the person who's doing the manipulation is like, screw this. This is just too much work. Now, you know, if this was a big paying customer and they're like, we want the wispy hair in there and everything else, because that might have been part of their composition or something, then I would take the time and effort to go into each and every fucking strand that's there, because I've done that in the past, and it is a laborious, time-consuming, very pain-in-the-butt thing to do. But since this is just, you know, a project for my daughter's class, it's not that important. I'm not going to go to that level. I just want to go to the point to where I make it believable and then call it a day. You know what I mean? So all I'm doing is I'm just kind of going up along the surface here, and this is non-destructive, meaning all this stuff that I'm doing here, let's say, for example, I sneeze, achoo! Oh, shit. Well, no biggie. Flip it back to white, and then I just paint it back, and it comes right back. So that's actually pretty neat. The new stuff on Photoshop that they have coming out is going to make all of this stuff right here super easy. You'll be able to select a subject, and it will do all of this stuff for you. It'll sit there and trim out everything nice and neat, and then you just go in and you make some modifications. But this particular version right here does not have that yet. But Adobe is doing some really trick stuff where they're going to make it so that you point at a subject and it will go ahead and isolate that subject for you, which I would love to have. It would probably take this whole process and speed it up immensely. So now all I'm doing is I'm just kind of clearing this out to the point where it's nice and clean like that, just around the hair, around the hat, I should say. And then I want to make sure that when I zoom it back out, it looks okay. So there you go. You can see it's looking pretty nice. And I'm going to go ahead and continue just close to the subject until I get to a point where it is enough that I can just go ahead and do a big edit. Okay. So I'm going to come around here like this. Just like that. Come like this. And the cool thing is the average person won't be able to see these edits. They won't be able to notice them. So we're just going to come down here around her arm. So I get down here. Now, if this was something, you know, ideally you want your subject to be done a certain way so you're not having to do this type of stuff. But my daughter didn't really think about it. She shot the pictures, and then after the fact was like, oh man, these are good pictures that will work for my assignment. So right there I made a mistake, but it's no big deal. I can fix that in a second. All I'm doing again is I'm just coming in like that, flip it to white, come back around this arm right here, and we'll fix that. The mound's going to be pretty easy. You'll see that in a second. So all I'm doing here is I'm just kind of getting everything around the body till we get to the surface of the horse. Now this is going to suck a little bit right here around the ears of the horse, but the other stuff here is easy. I just come like this, I select here, come down here, select, select, select. Since I went pretty close, I can just go the areas that I've already mapped out here, like this. Just come like this, come down here like that. And then I just finish my hole. And I just do Control Shift, fill with black. There you go. Control S, make sure I'm saving as I go. And then I'm going to do my Control minus. There it is. So you could see already it's starting to get where I need it to go. Okay? Because I've gotten most of them out. There's an arm right here. And then this stuff down through here I will clear out. And I was hoping that this fur area with the horse would be a match for the grass, but actually it looks like this photo was taken a little further up in this area here, like that. But we're gonna make this work because this is not a big deal. I've done harder things of this in the past. Okay, let's get down here to the fur on the horse and its ear. Again, I'm making sure I'm in a spot. I got my selection, I got my brush, and I'm going to set it to black. Black removes. And so I'm just going to come along like this, and I'm going to kind of just match the general direction that the fur is going. I'm not going to try to match the fur perfectly because that's going to be just way too time consuming for this particular video. And like I said, this is not for a big paying client. This is just something I'm throwing together real quick to help my daughter out. And so all I'm doing now is just taking off this stuff here to the point where I get it nice and close to the body. Boom, like that. Okay, and now I'll go ahead and go with the selection like this, and I'll fill this area with black. Like that. And that section's done. Control S again. I do save a lot because there have been times where I've gone quite a few steps and then said, oh man, I cannot believe I didn't save, and Photoshop crashed. And Photoshop now does a pretty good job of restoring from a crash, but it's much better if you've saved along the way so that you don't get foobarred, because that is one of the worst things in the world. You're sitting there doing all kinds of edits and stuff, and then you get to a point and you're like, oh man, it didn't work. So the horse hair extends quite a bit off the ears, but again, this is one of those things that a typical person is not going to notice that that's gone. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm getting rid of all of that black arm that was on the right hand side there. And then after everything is done, I'll show you another little trick that you can use to mitigate any of these surfaces that might be a little bit too soft or something else that somebody might look at and say, hey, that looks like that's been manipulated. You're like, yeah, you're right. It has been manipulated, but see right here, that's a fingernail. So I'm going to take this finger off, and I'm just going to come up here like this, take that hair, boom, come down here just like that. And I just keep on erasing, 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 erasing. This is a lot of grass right through here. It's the wrong color grass. That's going to really stand out. So we go like this. We just keep going. I use the mouse wheel to keep scrolling down. And I'm going to look a little further down here and see what's what. So let me back out. Okay, so that's a foot down here. So I'm going to go like this, just to go get that cleared out, come up here, clear this out. I'm going to come around here. I'm going to come down here, because for me, the only important part of this composition is going to be her feet, right? Because the feet are going to stand out. So I'm going to come around to the foot, go like that. And then I'm just going to come a little bit more like this so I can see my area. And again, if it gets to the point where you're like a little confused, just turn off this background layer and you can see everything you're cutting out, which is what I'm doing right here to make this a little easier on myself. So now I'm going to go back and grab this tool, come in here, just like this, come down to the foot. I want the foot to be a little sharper. So I'm going to come like this. I'm going to actually select around the foot. And I'm going to actually modify that, even though that bottom sole extends out a little bit. I'm just going to go around it, and I'm going to trim wherever I feel is necessary, because like I said, the average person's not going to look at that shoe and say, hey, there's part of that heel missing, you know. So there it is, there it is. Come up here like this, come over here. I'm going to get a lot of this loose crap like this, come back down here. And you know what I'm going to do also is I'm just going to go straight across here like that. Shift backspace black. Boom. Bring it back out. Hit Control S to save. Alright. So now I turn this back on. The composition's getting kind of where I need it to go. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the horse. I'm going to go all the way back out, because I want to make sure that this is framed appropriately. Okay. So now I'm going to make a copy of that layer, turn this one off, and what I'm going to do on this one is I want to get rid of the layer mask, because at this point I don't need it. So what I did is I made a copy of it, I put a layer above it, and then I did a Control E, which merged it. So now you notice it doesn't have this little white box around it. So if I need to go back and fix something, I can't do it now. But I had to do this because now I have to fix the jeans. Okay, so what I'm going to do to rebuild these jeans is I'm just going to go and draw where I think the jeans go, which is right about here. Okay. Then I'm going to come down here like this, and I'm actually going to take off some of this horsehair because I don't need it. Alright, so this is where things get real tricky with the clone tool. Okay, so I have a little bit of this fabric down through here, the seam that runs up here, and it's going to basically come up and disappear right about there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the clone, I'm going to do a select right here. Oops, sorry. Select this. That's not the clone. That's the clone. Too big. Small, 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 small for this area. Okay. So I'm gonna select here. I'm gonna come up right here. And don't worry about splotching this right at this particular moment, because I've got a game plan. All I want to do is create kind of a seam that's going up there. Then the rest of this, I could just start rebuilding the jeans. And I only want this coloration to be there because I'm going to trick everything after the fact. I'm going to do some other stuff to make this a little more believable. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is this pattern repeating. So I'm going to take care of that pattern, get the pattern off of there, take this bit of fur off of there, right here as well, because I need to have enough source material to copy to rebuild these jeans where the hand was. Okay, and so all I'm doing is I'm just doing a little bit of selection, and I just need to fill this with this basic jean pattern, so that I have something to work with and I have the hands taken off. Okay. The horsehair and stuff I will add after the fact because I have some source to pull from off to the right. But right now all I'm trying to do is just grab a little bit from different areas. And you'll notice this is lighter than this area down there. There was a shadow down here where the hands were. So I'm going to take that shadowing out. And again, all I'm trying to do is just get a jean pattern in here, because you guys will notice that there's a manipulation, but another person who's looking at this might not notice it right off the bat, because they're going to say, wait a minute, what? Yeah, that looks fine, I guess. So all I'm doing is just trying to get this base color. Now, why can't I just grab a color and fill it with the color? Well, because there's actually some texturing in here as well, and we don't want to not have this texture that's part of the jeans. And I'll show you how we're going to darken this all back up here in a second. Okay, so again, see there's a finger here. I don't want that finger, so I'm just going to take the finger out. And this stuff right here, this is typically a nightmare. I'll have people come to me with vacation photos and stuff, and they're like, hey, can you take such and such out? And I'm like, sure, no problem. And I can do it, but it's a pretty painful thing. Like this one, you know, I would have preferred that the photographer would have shot the shot the way it needed to be shot, but it's okay because, again, this is just a small piece. And so I'm going to get this seam eventually that comes up through here. But all I'm doing is I'm just building the jeans that weren't there. And this is going to help me out tremendously. See, here's some texturing here I can start to pull from. Yeah, this is really good texture, actually. And you just need to know what it is you're doing. And then I'm going to put some shadows in here, too, after the fact to make this more believable because, you know, when we come in like this, here, I'll show you after I'm done patching this part right through here. I'm going to grab a little bit of this, like that. Okay, so this is like some horsehair over here. I'm going to deselect that. I'm going to bring this, come like this, select here, come in like this. Okay. Alright, so now if I zoom back out, there's a surface of the leg there. Okay, that's the important part. I may even cheat a little bit and just take her whole leg right here to off. So I think I'm going to do that just because I don't want to have to rebuild those pants and the boots and everything else. I think that's a little too hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down here because he was wearing these little boots. She was the one that was wearing the full up leather cowboy boots. So we're going to come around like this, come down through here like this, come down here, and we're going to take that whole part off like that. And we're going to do the same part up here around the arm like that. So there's no orphan parts. Take a look at the composition. He's leaning enough there that it would hide her leg, and that's fine. That boot right there can stay. So we're getting pretty close to being done here at this point. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I got to fix those pants because the pants do stand out as a little odd. Like there's some things that are missing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in, and there's some more stuff I need to trim off here. You see it right here. So I'm going to come up here with the pants leg, comes like this. And I'm going to go a little on the inside so I don't have to worry. And then I'm going to come like this. Come like this. Just like that. There we go. So now by me doing this and trimming out that excess, we've got some folds and stuff. Okay, so now this material that's right here. Okay. This material here, I want to do some cloning on this because I want this stuff here. I want these to come in here. And all I'm doing is a single click. So I'm going nice and slow so I can see what's what. Alright, so that way I've got that there. I'm going to come over here like that. Okay. This part here, I want to soften these out, and I'm going to come down like this to get rid of some of that abruptness. Now there's another tool, it's called the healing tool, which I think is this guy. So I think I could just, nope, let's see, select here, nope. Is that the healing tool? Maybe, let's see, pop this guy out, that's the clone. That's the gradient tool. Oh, that's the eraser. there's the healing. So sometimes you could take the healing tool and go like this, and what it will do is it will make things a little, oops, Control Z. Control Z is your friend. Alright, so it's seeing that that's a little wonky. See if I can, oh, I don't like that. Nope. Nope. See, healing tools are really kind of hit or miss. And this one is missing. Missing. Alright, so I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to back up, step back, step back, step back, step back, step back one more. One more. I don't want that big piece there. That's the kind of cool thing about Photoshop too, is it will do this. Now, this is not quite what I want. So what I want to do is I'm going to create another layer, and I'm just going to create, I'm going to actually paint a little bit of black. A little bit of black on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come like this, come around here like this, come a little bit closer to horse here like this, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with this. Is it overlay? Nope. Multiply. Drop the opacity like this. Is it? Let's see. Is it? It's not screen. Soft light. Maybe it's soft light. Okay. I'm going to deselect. I'm going to come down here, turn this off for a second. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, let's see, do I have a patch down here? Alright, we're going to cheat. Let's do this. Let's go find, I'm going to bring a browser up. Let's see if you guys will see that too. Nope, you don't see it. Okay, so I'm just going to go denim texture, and I'm going to do images, and then I'm going to find one that's got a little bit of wrinkle to it. I'm going to go back and look at my source, a little bit darker, so probably this guy right here. I'm going to copy it, I'm going to bring it back over here, I'm going to paste it, I'm going to resize it because it's too goddamn big. Okay, I'm going to resize it. Then I'm going to rotate it. Edit, transform, rotate. About like that. And bring it up here. Then I'm going to do some opacity, drop it down so I can actually see what I'm working on. Zoom in here like this. Then I'm going to do layer, mask, reveal. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to select the guy. So I did control click on this layer right here. Okay, and then I'm going to come here, select inverse, and then I'll do a shift backspace. Boom, so that disappears that. Deselect, get rid of this stuff here. And his arm here. Because the only thing I want to focus on is the damn leg, right? So what I want to do is, now I'm going to set this opacity back a little higher. Like that. Okay. I'm going to go a little bit higher. Actually, maybe I'll just do an overlay on it. Yeah, overlay is pretty good. And then I'll come in here and I'll paint out all the stuff around the horse's hair and around this knee right here. I'll let it blend in a little bit like that. So now if it's all the way zoomed out like this, you can't even really tell. You can see like a little light spot that's right there, but that just kind of looks like maybe a stain on the pants or something. But bottom line is it looks pretty good. The only spots that are a little funky is right around the horse's head here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to zoom in on that. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll do a new layer mask, reveal, Control S, save. Make sure I'm saving as I'm going. Okay, come back over here. We're going to select our brush. And I'm going to go a little smaller. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here like this. Just different spots like this. I'm just going to come in like that. Like that. Come down here. Come up here like that. I'm just going to clean these hairs up a little bit so they look a little nicer. Just like that. All the other stuff looks pretty good. Pretty good. Her hair looks good. Hat looks good. Okay, so now how do I do some final little finesse? Like, okay, right around the arms here, this is wrong. Gotta come in here. Otherwise, it's gonna have this weird kind of golden glow around him, which I don't want. All of that looks good. The pants looks somewhat okay. There's this little spot right here. It's kind of bugging me still. Let me see if I can get in here. Maybe, let's see, is that guy showing? Oh, it was on the main pants itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clone a little bit more of this dark spot right here, just to bring it up a little higher, like that. Same right through here. There it goes. That looks a little nicer. Let's see, what's the opacity on this? Let's increase that a little bit more. Okay. Alright. So unless you're really staring hard, you're not going to notice that. You're just going to see these two cute kids sitting on a horse, and that's that. And what was funny is I noticed on the photo itself, it had these dots up here. I'm like, did she catch some fucking aliens or something on this photo? But they stand out as a little bit odd. So I'm going to get rid of those too, just because I'm not trying to have too much distraction. So I'm just going to select right nearby it. Click, 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 like that. And same on this guy. Click, click, click. Select over here, click, 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 click. Well, come on. There we go. Alright, so those circles are gone now. Now here's the final thing that I do, just to kind of clean up the composition. So I make sure I save everything. So I select all the layers, do Control G, that creates a whole group. I drag it down and make a copy of that group, turn off the background, flatten this guy. Then I drag it down, make a copy. Then I do a filter, blur, Gaussian blur, so that it blurs it out. And then what I'll do is the mode after is an overlay. I'll drop the opacity down on that a little bit. So there, now everything's got a little soft glow about it, more glamour shot. And if you come in close, you'll see their hair is there. You can see that her hair looks nice. The hat, everything looks like it's popping. Okay, so now we back it out. You can't really tell too much. There's a little bit down here along this horse's side. See this part right here? But the way I'm going to fix that is, again, I'm going to grab these two. I'm going to group them. Bring it down. Flatten this out. I'm going to come over here with the clone tool. Boom. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and then I'm just going to brush along the horse's area right through here. And what I'm doing is I'm just grabbing some grass from nearby. This is really anal, like, you know, super, super anal right there. I think most people wouldn't even have noticed it, but now even if they zoom in at a pixel level, they're not going to see it. And this one right here, it looks a little hard. So I think what I'm going to do is I might grab just a little bit of grass. Just bring it up like this to break it up. See how it makes that line less. Oops. Started cloning the damn foot there. Edit, step backwards. So again, come down here, select this, come up through here like this. And all we're doing is trying to break apart a line, because anytime you see a hard line like that, it just screams Photoshop. Okay, so that's on the nose. Okay, so there's the horse, there's all that. That looks pretty good. Let's take a look at the original photo. Take that off. So that was the original photo, and that's the modified photo. So we were able to take the source subject, take it out, put it over here, and that's pretty good. That's all my daughter needed for her assignment. Got the horse and kids. Gonna go ahead and save this. So I got my master layer document. You could see if I pop all of these down, you can see all my source layers that were there all along the way. So if there's something I needed to do, I can go in and do that. But there you go. Boom, there's your main photo right there. All these other ones are just backups. And then I make sure I save it. And then I go File, Save As. File, Save As. And then I will call this a JPEG. And this will be final pic for Momo. Done. And I'll save this at the highest settings. That's it. That's it. That is how I go about doing a photo manipulation. I think now when you look at it, you can't even really, unless you really zoom in here and look at this, you're gonna go, you're not gonna really trip too much. You know, I would look at this and notice that the seam has disappeared right here, and that there's some hard lines along the pants leg that are a little funny. But other than that, you know, it's pretty convincing. So this is pretty good, and this shows you the power of Photoshop as far as image manipulation. There's a reason that I love using Photoshop. Photoshop is one of my favorite tools when it comes to doing image manipulations and things of that nature. One thing that also could be done, and this, I'll give you one last little tip here. You could draw, make another copy of the layer, do a Gaussian blur Gaussian, right? So that way all of this stuff back here is blurred. And then you can come here and go layer mask, layer mask, reveal all, go black, make it nice and big, your brush them back in like this. See if there's something in the background that was problematic and you didn't want to show it, then you could just go like this. And then everything else in the background is blurred, but they are not. And that's a quick and dirty way to draw emphasis on your subject and not really have anybody look at the background. So, you know, say there was like a plane or some other stuff and you didn't really want to go and do all of that shit. You could just blur them out and make it look like there's a little bit of depth perception going on. And the way you'd have to make sure you pull that off is you... obviously, the blur is a bit much here. Actually, that's not real. Let's get rid of this layer. If you need to get rid of a layer, drag it down here. Drag a copy of this. So that Gaussian was a bit much. Let's drop the blur. Gaussian blur. Okay, that's too much. We want to keep some detail. There we go, like that. And then go layer, layer mask, reveal all. Come in with your brush. Bring the focus back on them like this so that they're nice and sharp. And this is another trick for, like, if you're trying to not get too caught up with hair and stuff. You do this, you bring this stuff all back into focus. Okay? And anything that was back behind them is going to be just slightly out of focus. So I will let my daughter choose. I'll give her, you know, 2 of these that she can look at, and she can decide if she likes this version. And so now if I go like this and I show it to you, You know, this is the original. Let's see. I might even blur this. I might even blur this one a little bit more. Hold on. Filter, Gaussian blur a little more. A little more. Okay, turn it off. It's real subtle. Real subtle. But if you look at, say, the grass as an example, see how it is? Very subtle blur. But when your camera does like a depth perception, that's exactly what you'll get. You'll get something that this is a little bit blurry, but this stuff that you're focusing on that's closer to you is the stuff that's actually nice and in focus. So I will save this because this is, I can name this guy right here. I'll name this one blurred. So I can toggle it on and off. Leave that on, file, save. This was done. File, save as. Wait for it to finish. File, save as, JPEG. And this one I'm going to say blurred, dash blurred. Max settings, done. So there it is. That's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as far as, you know, how stuff that I do on a regular basis. For creating images that have been manipulated for, you know, like say there's been things in the past where I've done Christmas pictures where one kid's smiling, one's not, you know, and then taking the one that's smiling, putting it in one where everybody is smiling. So I've done manipulations like that. I've done some work with Carmen Electra. I've done some work with Biggest Loser. I've done some work with Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo. This is pretty much my core competency. This is stuff that I do on a regular basis. I've been doing this for over 23 years, I guess. So anyway, that's the quick and dirty way. Something like this could actually end up taking hours and hours depending on how specific the customer wants it. But I think after everything is said and done, this came out pretty nice, because if we go ahead and we shut all of this down, show you guys the original photo. This was the original background, okay, and this was the original source material, and then we ended up with that. Pretty good. All right, guys, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will talk to you guys later.